So.
Okay, we're recording and streaming, so go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay. For the record, my name is John Floyd. I'm a planner here with the City West Linn Planning Department. We're here with the Historic Resources Board on September 21st, 2021 at 6:15 p.m. I think the first item of business is to take roll, and I'll go ahead and do that. Danny Schreiber is absent. Scott?
Here.
Okay. John, I believe he's absent. David?
Here.
Yep, excellent. Tom? Okay.
Here.
We'll see you there. And then Tim Young is absent. And then in case those of you, in case some of you missed the announcement, Richard Nowacki has resigned from the board. So, and I believe his replacement was appointed last night, as I understand it. So I'll have more updates about that in the future. As well. So once we have a little more details about that, he's up to speed, or she is up to speed. So I think first order of business is.
Hey, John.
Yes, go ahead.
Just for the record, let me announce that Todd Jones, City Council Liaison, is here.
Yep.
And I want to thank the members that are here tonight. Appreciate your service to the city. And at the end of this, if you have any questions about what city's up to, City Council's up to for the good of the order, if I have confident responses, I'll give them. And if I don't, I won't. So thanks. Oh, the person that was appointed by City Council last night, someone named Chris Owens.
Oh. Thank you very much. So excellent. So okay. Well, so I think hopefully we meet Chris at the next meeting, and if they can make the date, and we'll go from there. So I think that brings us to the second topic, which is public comment related to land use items not in the agenda. So I think the board members would provide updates during items of interest from the board, but does anyone want to speak at this moment about items not on the agenda? Nope. Okay. So moving on, next item of business would have been meeting minutes, but we can't really adopt those tonight without the quorum. So unless there are any comments on that, I'll skip this item. Similar thing with the item number 4, which is the work session on the code updates. I think those are best considered by a majority of the board as well. So with that, I think we could maybe have some preliminary discussion, but maybe better to have the whole board present for that. One thing I did want to talk about, which I think would be okay given the lack of quorum, are sort of next steps. And so I think one of the things I mentioned in the memo was trying to get a sense of how much more work the HRB wants to put into these into the code amendments, or if you're feeling comfortable releasing them out into the wild for circulation amongst other agencies, and then passing on to the Planning Commission to sort of give them an update and have them begin the process of working on them. One suggestion staff has would be to have a joint meeting between the HRB and the Planning Commission to talk about the changes. Once the HRB is ready on this, it could be either a full meeting or just a representative group, but I think it would be good to have some knowledge and thoughts passed on, because Planning Commission members would likely have questions about the background. Go ahead. So go ahead, Tom.
I just wanted to agree. A couple of years ago, we were pretty deep into this, and then it got put on hold. And it was very productive to have them involved, because they have questions that were able to be answered in person, and instead of it going for another round of just because their interpretation of the code or things. So I think it'd be very productive to do that. Because I wasn't in the last meeting, I'm not positive that we're there yet, but if
Okay.
I think if the rest of the committee feels like we are, then I would vote for that.
Okay. Okay, great. And again, it's something to consider. I think also too, if they had concerns, it could come back to the HRB and more thought and consideration could be given. So we're not on a deadline here, so we have time to work through this. It's just that multiple bodies, HRB, Planning Commission, Council will be considering this, and I think just in an effort to facilitate communication both directions. Okay, and so what that looks like, we can maybe talk about the next meeting, but I don't know. I don't know, do other members have any thoughts about that or concerns or questions? So, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it'd be good for us to all give it one last look over,
Okay.
especially with the chair out. And he might have a few words, and so then we can say, okay, there, we all signed off on it for sure. I don't want the planning commission to look at it because we, dropped the ball on something simple, and then it
Mhm.
to question our total competence or maybe not.
I understand that. So, okay. Excellent. Okay, well, good. Well, and so I think, so maybe just think about next time about over the next month before the next meeting, maybe staff would request that the board members consider, perhaps what that might look like, what your preference is, as well. It could also just be maybe like a broader general check-in as well about some of your concerns or issues or things. So, just because we're all different boards are looking at different things. So, but okay. Well, I think what that looks the tentative dates we were looking at were October 20th and November 3rd, but I think November 3rd would be the soonest given the fact that no action can be taken tonight. So, so we have a couple planning commission meetings in November. I think the 3rd and the 17th, I believe it would be, or the actually I'll have to double check on that, but it'll be the 2 meetings in November. There are a couple other items that we're balancing on the planning commission agenda right now. One is House Bill 2001 updates. There's some mandatory FEMA floodplain regulation updates that are going through. We have to have those adopted by February, I believe. So those get priority. And then also there's a public hearing for expansion of the Linn Care Center, which may be continued past its initial hearing date early next month. So I think they're, the agendas there's time available, but we may have to balance out these competing items in order to arrange the joint meeting. So,
Hey, John, sorry to interrupt. This is Todd.
Sure.
Would you say the second one again for my notes? I got House Bill 2001 updates, the Roseland Care Center expansion. What was the one in between those two?
There's some mandatory FEMA floodplain regulation updates.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think those are, it's not so much map amendments as just, I believe, various controls to development within those areas. Perfect. Yep. So, and great. So I think in terms of that, so once the HRB and Planning Commission feel comfortable with the code language, would proceed on through the sort of normal circulation to other agencies. We would send public notices out to everyone potentially affected by the code changes. So everyone in the Willamette Historic District or with a designation on their property would be noticed, and probably broader noticing as well. And then we'd have public hearings at this point, probably in December or January. So given everything at the soonest. So, but as I said, we're not on a timetable here, and we want to get the language right. So if it takes a few more meetings, we're able to do that. So I think with that, did the board members present want to talk about any of the latest changes in the draft, or did you want to hold off until the full board is present to maybe have those discussions? So. Yep. Okay, Scott, I think you're looking for hands off. Um, okay. Well, I'm not hearing a lot of eagerness to talk about that. So, so we'll just save that for next time then. So,
I do. I mean, there's a couple things that are there, but you know, Danny is somebody that has a pretty good pulse on a lot of this. I read a lot of code in my
yeah,
business, but it doesn't make sense to talk about it without Danny here. To be honest with you,
okay,
just because, like I said, he kind of seems to be spearheading enough of these things, and the questions I have would be he would have a passionate opinion about one way or another.
quite. So that's fair. I would say if any board member, present or not present, or watching the video, if you have questions or thoughts about some of the language proposed, feel free to inquire with staff, and we can roll those into our next report. So, and so just, you know, the more time we have to bounce things off, we could do a little extra research or just include that in the staff report. Obviously can't take action without the full board present, but just in the for the sake of efficiency, that would be helpful. So, okay, so I think with that, it sounds like we'll move on from item number 4 to item number 5, which is items of interest from the board. Any updates from anyone? Any questions, thoughts? So sounds like
I am concerned that the sidewalk on Lemon Falls Drive just isn't historically accurate. We do something about it.
you mean the Main Street area, or
Yeah.
okay,
The more I walk down there, the more I'm concerned about the risk it proposes. And I keep thinking, what's with the green and the white lines? I don't know. It's very unusual experience for me. If we can do anything about it, that'd be
okay,
great. I know, I know it's out of our hands. I mean, even the planning commission didn't even get to touch it before it went through.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah,
I watch adult elderly people fall down about once every 2 weeks just out my window on those the little tripping curbs that are everywhere. People fall down. It's a large liability, but that's unfortunately that's not us to decide. Sucks.
John, can I
yes,
respond?
yes, please, Counselor. So
Yeah, Scott, just a clarification. Forgive me, I couldn't tell if you were being tongue in cheek, but when you made your reference, is there some legitimate historic accuracy concern? Or are you just talking about safety?
No, I mean, it's mainly a safety thing. I know it's out of our realm, really. It's though it is a bit odd to me though when I look at it, because I mean, when I went to university in Iowa City, the there were two historic university buildings that were connected by the skywalk that was supposed to be like the bridges of Madison County. And John might be familiar with this skywalk. And it is an architectural failure where they took something classic, tried to make it look modern, and it doesn't jive with either of the two buildings it's connected with. And in that regard, then that's a, you know, that I think that is unfortunately a failure. Um, and I think then that's a little bit of what we have going on with this sidewalk. It's a very 21st century looking sidewalk in this 19th century, at least, storefront face area. And so in that regard, then I think I you know there is that historic distortion that happens with the sidewalk. I know it's kind of weird because it's the ground. And you know, it's not really something that you know we firmly can affect with our code. But yeah, but I think just like many other people in Westland, we're concerned about that sidewalk. What exactly is going to be done to make it safer, and how is that new whatever changes happen? What is that going to look like? So I think that it's fair to say that whatever happens with it, whatever plans there are for it, the historic review board, I think, should have an opportunity to have a say in some regard.
Good. Hey, just a quick update for you all. I know that city staff has heard the complaints about, what do we want to call it? The bump between the cycle track and the sidewalk. And staff has already come back to us as a council with a contract bid to have a contractor come in and literally smooth out that curb, basically take 45 degrees off it. They're not going to flatten it, but they're going to take 45 degrees off it to almost turn it into a ramp, if you will. And so there's a bid that's been submitted, and I get the impression the city's moving in that manner. So it's just a question of timing.
Oh,
Now, I don't know enough about the engineering to know if that fix is going to resolve the safety issues, nor if people are going to be tickled with it. I don't know. All I can tell you is that staff has something in the works. They're not ignoring it.
okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, once again, no, out of our realm, but I was thinking that, if there was, take the curb and like paint it yellow, or something other, because the green and the white, I remember seeing that, and I was like, those lines don't mean caution to me. I'm not sure what those colors, that striping means. So I don't know. I guess that's just one citizen's statement there.
No, I appreciate it, Scott. We've heard you. I actually agree with you. When they put in the stripes, you could see a question mark appear in a word bubble above my head. And it's come up at more than one council meeting about the part they're talking about cutting. Why haven't you just painted it? And
Yeah.
just paint it yellow. So believe me, that's come up at meetings. Now, if John's willing to carry this, I think there is absolute value in John relaying a message to Lance Calvert and the rest of the engineering team saying that this came up at a historic review board meeting unsolicited. And these were the concerns and these were the ideas that people shared, because I think that has as much power as anything, Scott, in terms of Public Works hearing from a volunteer body saying, yeah, we're weighing in on this. We're not sure about your fix. Why aren't we having paint? Yeah, I actually encourage you to make those opinions known to John and ask John to relay it on to engineering. I think that's appropriate.
Thanks,
I would
John.
concur. No, absolutely. I would concur with that. So that's all your comments are fed through the various departments. So I'm your conduit for that. So I will certainly pass that on to Darren and John Williams to convey to Lance, and we'll pass that on. So
No, appreciate it.
Is there
Okay.
any updates on Historic City Hall?
I don't have those right now. I don't believe so. I haven't heard anything recently. I know last time the nomination appeared to be going through. I should double check. I should check in with our consultant, and then I can follow up with an email to provide you an update in terms of that. So
And from what I understand, there's been a hiccup in the parking situation?
a hiccup, and can you elaborate on that somewhat?
Well,
Or
from what I understand, and I'm out of the loop compared to what I used to be when
okay.
Siobhan originally negotiated the parking agreement.
Mhm.
Now what I understand is it's fallen to John Williams, and there's been some challenges with the mill.
Okay. So in terms of that, I can come back to you with an update on that. So
Okay.
I know that as you know, the old city hall doesn't actually have its own dedicated parking. The lots, it's the property is essentially the building itself. So in terms of where the parking lease stands, let me check in with John Williams and get back to you at the next meeting, if that would be
Yeah,
acceptable.
that'd be
So
fine. Because
okay.
I realized that Siobhan, when she was director of the coalition, a couple times had to call actually it was the secretary of the venture capitalist that was able to move it through each time there was a hiccup.
Okay.
Taylor, for what it's worth, from a city council perspective, it was about a month ago or so that we authorized staff to go forth and go ahead and proceed with signing a contract for the renovation. So staff has the green light. If there's any hiccup, as you put it, with parking, that's news to me. I haven't heard that. I'm not telling you I'm necessarily in the know on everything, but
Okay.
I've not heard that.
That was
Yeah.
from Jody the other day, so who knows?
Okay. Yeah, no, I can tell you, I did spend part of my week was actually evaluating the minimum required parking, for the proposed uses. So we have been doing some analysis and looking ahead in terms of what the required parking would look like in terms of that, and the availability of on-street parking there on the cross street, not on Willamette Drive, but the cross street, whose name I'm blanking on right now. So we have been working on that. So by the broader picture is above me a little bit, so I apologize. So, okay.
Great.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Any updates? Okay. Well, if there's none, I'll move on to items of interest from staff, but feel free to interrupt me or mention anything else. So there are a few projects out there that I just wanted to provide some updates on. So first is the McLean House, the updates to the site there. There's the this is for the new shelter over the existing concrete pad at the back of the park where people have weddings and whatnot. It's where the large tent usually is erected. And so as I believe the board is aware, so Parks Department submitted an application to have that reviewed and presented to the HRB. We had some corrections on that, and McKinsey, who's the consulting firm handling the application, is currently responding to some of those comments right now. So last I heard from the consultant, we would probably be seeing that the revised application probably end of this month or early next month. So that would probably come before the board in December or January review in terms of that. So that's coming. I don't really, we also don't have an application yet for the old gas station. I believe a previous meeting we talked about the addition of food carts there to the gas station site. We do know they will be applying for utility hookups on site in the immediate future. So, and then I did speak to the architect they've hired to help with that to help with the restoration and conversion to a food cart site. They're expecting to submit probably in about 6 months for that. So that's probably reviewed by the HRB next spring or summer at this pace. One challenge they're having was they're trying to stabilize the roof of the canopy, which is leaking pretty bad right now. And so one of the issues is that our code requires them to any repairs require a class 1 review. So by the city. So that may be coming in here in the near future as well. So since the code does require all repairs to go through a review. One new project is that I received a call about the Westland Saloon there on Willamette Falls Drive. They are considering doing some updates to the building. So the architect is currently doing some research on the history of the structure, trying to get old photographs, trying to understand the building itself. She's the same one also working with the gas station site. So I pointed her towards the Historical Society, who may be able to assist her with some of the documents as well. But they're thinking about updates to the entrance, possibly a new sign, a new paint color, possibly new canopy. So I don't know what those look like yet, but I know those are in the works. I think part of this may be, part of the background may also be related to possible expansion into the adjacent building as well, to open up connection between buildings. So that's all I know. I understand the application would probably arrive by the end of the year. So I just want to put that on your horizon to be thinking about that. So she was, the conversation was mostly just about resources she could tap into, and then some of the code requirements as well. So, so in terms of that, that's the big thing there. Also, too, we have related to this project, but on a much broader scale, is that Angelo Planning Group has been hired by the city to do a code audit of the development code in order to take a look at the broader issues we have with clear and objective standards in the code. Large parts of the code require the reader to use a lot of discretion in terms of how it's interpreted. Due to some recent LUBA decisions, these LUBA is starting to read. So in Oregon law, any regulations applying to housing must be clear and objective in the sense that they're either like a yes/no answer, or there's a metric response. It can't be discretionary. Traditionally, that was interpreted as things like setbacks, height, design standards, and now that's being expanded to include things like street improvements, environmental protections, things like that. So we're trying to get ahead of possible litigation. And so Angelo will be taking a look at the entirety of our code and giving us an audit chapter by chapter in terms of possible areas where some clarity needs to be generated. And so they're going to be identifying sections that probably need work, and then possible solutions. And so the idea is not to change the standards, but just try and make them a little more, a little bit easier to read and provide greater clarity on that. So that work is just getting started, and so it probably won't really get under it. It won't be hitting any sort of public hearings until middle to late next year, after we've handled all the House Bill 2001 updates. So, but we're just, we're trying to lay the groundwork for some future code updates on that. So, and that'll be obviously presented to the Planning Commission and Council as well as that emerges. So, but so that's, and I'll keep the board updated on that project as well. So I think that's really about it I have from a staff update perspective. If you guys have, if the board has any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them, but I think that's all we have. So. Okay, well, I'm not seeing a lot of hands here. Unfortunately, this was a pretty short meeting today. So any requests for next time? Or I think we'll probably still be online, but we may be back in person, so I'll keep the board updated about that. Out of curiosity, informally, how many of you would probably continue to participate online versus wanting to come in and meet in person? Just an informal poll here. How are you feeling in terms of safety, comfort, things like that? So.
I mean, for myself, my family, we're trying to keep exposure as minimal as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaning on the side of stay online for at least a few more months. What I prefer.
Okay.
I'm open for whatever. I do miss our in-person meetings. It comes with a little bit of different dynamic. This is great, but I want everyone to feel safe as well. So I vote for whatever the group votes for.
Yeah.
I definitely think in-person meetings have a lot of value.
Yeah. I understand. I miss in-person meetings too, but it's an unusual time. So I'm just trying to get a sense for the board's feelings on this as we try and make calls in terms of how to handle them. So I appreciate the input. So thank you. Okay. Okay. Well, I think unless anyone has anything else, I'll adjourn the meeting at 6:44 p.m. So okay. Thank you all.
Don't forget your hats next time, everyone.
Will do. Part of the dress code from now on. Okay, thanks, Scott. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.